All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Real Estate Talk Podcast, Season 2. About to bring you some more facts and information about real estate. So, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Let us know that you love it by liking it. Be sure to hit that bell notification so you don't miss any new content. In addition, you might be finding us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or some other streaming platform. This will be actually Season 1 for you guys. This is the first time we're trying to bring it to the streaming services and away from YouTube. Sorry, YouTube, we still love you, but, hey, we've got to keep expanding. So, anyhow, into today's topic. If you're a homeowner, how do you know that you're living in a, good neighborhood or bad neighborhood? Maybe you're thinking, your real estate agent sold you a bad goods or something about the neighborhood that you're living in. Maybe you asked them to help you get into a good neighborhood, then you ended up in a neighborhood and you're like, this isn't so good. Or maybe you're a home buyer. You're kind of looking around, doing some research, trying to find out, hey, what's a good neighborhood? What's a bad neighborhood? Or maybe you're just kind of thinking that sometime in the future you'd like to live somewhere you just don't know yet. Either way. Anyhow, we're going to talk about that and more, but we have a disclaimer for everybody, don't we, Josh?
Absolutely. First, so the topics that we're going to cover today can be sensitive to some. The topic is not to create division, but understanding from all. So without further delay, we're going to start the die course, but we want to start with a toast for 2024, the new year.
All right.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Oh, by the way, guys, we're drinking some wonderful tea. I'm taking my tea, what looks like tea, on the rocks. I think we have a couple guests with us right now, and we might as well introduce them, while we're having a toast. We have Shak Ankrum. He's a real estate agent, Army vet, former Newport News police officer. That's in Newport News, Virginia. And he is also a former Mercedes Benz Audi Sales Manager, so he used to sling Mercs over to the affluent. So welcome to the podcast.
Hey, well, thank you.
We also have Melissa Zendrosky, also known as Mel. She is a real estate agent, investor, and the fashionista of all real estate agents in Hampton Roads. Welcome to the show, Mel.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so we just have our tea time celebration. Mel is sipping on what appears to be grape juice.
That's right.
How's that grape juice?
It's great.
Okay, and Shak, seems to be
actually tea.
That's right. Good old Carolina Sun tea is what I call it.
Oh,
you don't know nothing about that.
No, I don't know anything about that. Is that a tea from Long Island?
No, it's a South Carolina thing, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
we sit the tea outside and literally it brews in the sun.
Nice.
This is Carolina Sun tea.
Does the sun activate the tea?
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Heat.
Oh,
It
okay.
activates everything.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. I guess it infuses it with vitamin D. Anyhow, guys, listen, ladies and gentlemen, our audience, there's some factors that you have to consider when you ask your real estate agent if a neighborhood is good or bad. One, we're not going to tell you. The reason why we can't tell you if a neighborhood is good or bad is because we have to adhere to fair housing laws. But we're going to give you some more information, so stay with us a little bit. So what I mean by fair housing laws, there's basically three things that we must avoid at all times. That's steering, blockbusting, and you might have heard this before, is redlining, So I'll give you an example, guys. You probably heard of blockbusting. You think that's, actually a good thing, like Blockbuster movie, right? Yeah, it's kind of anything but.
You're aging yourself by talking about Blockbuster.
Right.
Well, a lot of folks don't know what that is, man. This new generation, they don't know what that is.
I know, man. Shit. I can't keep up with it. Anyhow, blockbusting for us old folks. But anyway, and new folks too. So let me give you an example. So let's say I'm a scumbag, piece of shit real estate agent. And let's say that I have no morals or values. And I want to participate in some good old-fashioned blockbusting. So this is what I would do if I was a scumbag. I would target a neighborhood where the demographics were changing, so to speak. And what I would do is I would target a homeowner over there, and I would, first see if he had any equity in the house. I can do that on the back end by looking in, the public records to see when he bought the house, do some reverse math, and figure out if he paid his bills on time, he would have some, equity remaining. I need to know he's got a lot of equity remaining because as a scumbag, I have to make sure he can sell for a lot lower amount than what the home is worth. So I'll go over to him and I'll say, Mr. Seller, thinking about selling this house? And he'll be like, no, I'm fine just where I'm at. And I'll say, yeah, I completely understand that you're comfortable where you're at. But I don't know if you have noticed this, but the demographics around the neighborhood has been changing. There's certain people moving in. Have you noticed that? Well, yeah, of course I have noticed it. Yeah, the Johnson family, 6 doors down? Yeah, well, I sold their house, and you know what? They got $215,000 for it. Yeah. And the Smith family, they're about 3 doors down. They got about $205,000, so $10,000 less. You see, the Smith family was acting a little bit later than the Johnson family. You see how the time goes on, that it decreases in value of the house. So, Mr. Seller, I implore you to hurry up and sell, and I can get you into a neighborhood where it's more like your values and more people like you. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah. It's like, because, look, those people, they're going to come in and they're going to bring their old ways with them. And pretty soon the neighborhood's just going to keep reducing in value. And before you know it, I could give you $200,000 for this house now. But, you wait about 6 more months, it really could be like $190,000. Do you really want to keep losing your equity? Well, no, of course not. And that could be, racial demographics and stuff like that when I give that example. But it could also be, protected classes, right?
Correct.
So let's say I was to reverse that a little bit and just say, like, certain people, I would just say something like, I see inside your house, you seem like a very Christian fellow. Do you really want to come out your front door every day and see a bunch of rainbow flags? No, of course not. Let's move you into a more Christian community, closest to your church. Where's your church at? First Baptist Church or wherever. Okay, let's get you a house near that. Does that sound good? Yeah, that's blockbusting. So basically what I'm doing in that example is I'm taking fear and I am using that as leverage to force somebody basically to sell their house for a lot lower amount of money for fastest amount of time as possible. And as an agent, I'm recouping a commission on the listing side as well as helping them buy a house on the buy side. And if I'm an investor, I'm getting it for a cheap amount of money so I can resell that property later to whoever wants to buy it, really. It doesn't even matter what demographic.
Yeah, the investors don't care. Green is green, right?
Green is green. But that, in a sense, is, it could go to people with disabilities too. You could say, hey, 3 doors down, a group home just opened up. And do you really want a bunch of mentally disabled or developmentally disabled people running around your neighborhood and running into your yard and everything and possibly entering your house if you leave the door unlocked? You're just using fear to get a response into selling that house. So that is a good classic example of blockbusting, and that also keeps neighborhoods lower. It lowers their values over time, and it's one of the reasons why it's a prohibited practice under fair housing. But you got 2 other ones. That's steering and redlining. Who wants to do the steering?
Well, steering, I'll talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So steering is almost just the opposite of what you just spoke on.
Yeah.
It's basically this, what do you call the agent?
A scumbag.
Scumbag.
Yeah.
Scumbag. I couldn't remember which word you used.
I need to take a shower now talking like that.
So Mr. Scumbag Agent, he takes his client and he actually takes his client to neighborhoods that he feels like this client should live in based on his class or his race or creed. And that too poses a big problem. Basically, I take a brother who I think is from inner city,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to show him only houses in inner city. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I take a Jewish guy, and I'd find communities that only Jewish people live in. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But as you were talking and you talked about your story, my biggest question too is, do you think this is really happening?
It's not supposed to happen, but I wouldn't doubt that it still is.
Yeah. I can almost imagine it happening. How about you, Josh?
Absolutely. I'm going to get into mine. I'm saving the nuclear bomb here
The nuclear,
for the next one. But yeah, absolutely. Still going on to this day, and I'll back that up with some facts.
Ouch. Ouch. We're about to hear some good old hot tea. Now he's got hot tea. He doesn't have sun tea. Josh is coming with some hot tea.
I think also too, unintentionally too. I think, not being educated of what people really want can lead to steering in an unintentional way.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
Just without communicating with them, just assuming that a Latino family want to live near a Latino family just for comfort, because people like to be around people they know, love, and trust, right?
Yeah.
Or people that look like that. Most of the time, your comfort level goes way up when you're around people that look like you. So unintentionally, you might assume, instead of having that upfront, uncomfortable conversation, to say, I can present you with all the facts. I can't steer you to somewhere, and this is what it's called.
Well, let's throw another monkey in there. What do you do when your client requests?
Ooh.
They tell you, hey, I need you to find me a Jewish community. What do you do?
Oh, we'll get a little bit more of that here in a second. Let's find out what that bomb that Josh is talking about was
Let's get that hot
redlining. I
tea,
want to know
man.
what's that.
Let's serve that hot tea.
We need a sound off of that one.
So the next one that I'm covering
There it is.
is redlining, okay? And redlining worked like this, and it was a practice that was used before 1968, when the Fair Housing Act was created as a part of the Civil Rights Act. It would be like, hey, if you are of African American descent, you can only buy houses over there. If you were white, you could buy houses here. And it really was kind of tailored towards African Americans staying over there on that side. And so the bank here in the middle would say, hey, you want to buy a house over here? I'm going to disapprove your loan. You have to stay back over there where we want you to be at. Okay? So just recently,
Speak on it.
Navy Federal Credit
on it.
Union.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, man. I knew it was going there. I knew he was going there.
They are alleged to have disapproved over 50% of all minorities who applied for home loans. Now, the thing that's very troubling is if you listen to Navy Federal's slogan, our members are the mission. But their members consist of veterans who put their lives on the line for this country. And to think that they would say, oh, you risked your life for this country, but I'm not going to give you a loan because of the color of your skin or your ethnicity, it really upsets me. I can't even put it into words to correctly articulate how it upsets me.
Yeah, they hired some hotshot civil rights attorney to come in and look at all their stuff to make sure their practices are right. But I feel like that's just a reactionary response. Did you see any literature as to why they did the 50%?
It's all still in the investigation,
Allegedly.
Correct.
and I actually spoke to an agent very shortly after CNN broke the story. And he said flat out to me, oh, don't worry, this stuff will be swept underneath the rug. And this agent sounded very confident in the fact that it was going to be swept underneath the rug. Now, I don't know, maybe it will be, but just the fact of it alone, it has to hurt you.
Yeah.
As a veteran, as a minority veteran, there's no way that you cannot sit silently on the sidelines and say, hey, I'm going to continue to do business with this institution who doesn't value me as a member. So I've been contemplating just going there and taking my money out and maybe moving it to somewhere else where I'm more welcome. Because if people who look like me aren't able to borrow my money to buy their house, then my money shouldn't be with them. Because that's how the banking institution works. We all put our money into the bank, and the banking system is based on a fractional dollar, meaning that for every dollar that we have in our bank accounts, they're allowed to loan that money 10 times. So if I have $50,000 in my account, they can loan that $500,000.
Yeah, just have to have 10% in the actual.
Yeah, they have to keep
down
cash
payment,
on hand,
Right.
as required by the government. They have to keep cash on hand, but still, their ability to lend money is based on my wanting to have my money with them.
Correct.
And every other veteran.
Correct.
And if we all say, hey, we don't feel like we're welcome, we're seeing the storylines and they're not good, we're going to move our money, then that hurts them. Now, some people say, hey, don't say that. That's what happened to Silicon Valley Bank when they went under. It was a run on the banks. But no, seriously, if you are going to disapprove home loans to people who look like me, then I shouldn't have my money with you. That's how I feel.
I feel the same way. And it's cool because we're sitting here with a room full of veterans. I don't know if
All
I'll
of us.
point that out. We're all veterans here. So
Yeah.
we built their client base. You guys know the way how Navy Fed worked is that you had to be referred in to be a member.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
everybody that they're making money off of is off of our backs. So I definitely feel you 100% on that.
And so where this practice of redlining really hurts and hits home is it creates a wealth gap in certain areas of the cities. So in this area of the city over here, businesses and institutions are selective on whether or not they want to put their establishment over here because this is where the minorities are. And over here is where the people I want to serve are, and they have more economic, more wealth. So I'm going to put my building here. So what happens is, and we can break this down even right here in our own area. And for those of you who are listening, if you do this research, I'm sure you'll come up with a similar result. Right now, where we sit, I can name 5 hospitals within a 10-minute drive. 10. If you go into some of our areas that were affected by redlining, still today, this law was passed in 1968. We are now 55 years removed or past when the law was passed. And there are still cities right now
Where the lines are
that
still there.
have one hospital to serve 300,000 people.
Preach.
And if I'm feeling ill in the morning when I wake up and I don't want to go to the hospital because I don't feel that it is necessarily an emergency, I can go to somewhere that is privatized, like an urgent care, a patient first. Velocity is another one that's out here. Right now, there's probably 10 of them within a 5-mile radius of us. But if you go into some of these areas that were affected by redlining, right now today, they still don't have an urgent care in those neighborhoods. And the reason why is because the wealth gap has been created and people have said, hey, we're a for-profit business. And so therefore we can decide if we want to put our establishments over there. We know the law is in existence. However, we choose to say where we want to put our business.
Correct. They know there's no insurance down there.
Well, that's the reason why
Yeah.
a medical institution would say that, yes.
Correct.
But there are several other things that if you look around and you're asking yourself, if you're a home buyer and you're out there saying, hey, is this a good neighborhood? Is this a bad neighborhood? Well, there are a few things that you can check. How many medical facilities are there in the area that you're considering staying in? What are the school systems like in the areas that you're staying in? the reason why the school systems aren't as good as other areas is because they've been affected by redlining and the economic wealth gap that was created due to redlining. And it's still 55 years later, and those areas are still trying to recover from a law that was passed in this country. So until people start investing money into those neighborhoods and those areas in a large amounts of money, because you have to cover a long time, a gap. You have to cover it from the time that it was first started up until now. You have to invest more and more and more money into it in order to pick up the gap.
Well, it's hard to pick the gap up because the reality is, as you explained everything, as someone who's been struggling to make money, when you begin to make money, the first thing you're going to do is
out
move
the
away.
neighborhood.
So where's the money go?
But that's why practices like steering and blockbusting and stuff like that is why they're prohibited practices. And if there's any agents out there that are still doing that, y'all got to knock that off, man, because that's what's going to be holding up investments into some of these communities affected by redlining, as Josh explained. So how do you if you don't do these violations of fair housing laws practices, then maybe you'll see new development, new investment in some of these areas. And maybe over time, I mean, we know of examples of areas that were run down, then all of a sudden they're hot now. You know, it's just, then you get into another thing. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but then you get into what's called gentrification, what a lot of people say. Yeah. So when investment does come in, all right, well, then it pushes other people out that are lower income. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, because gentrification is the byproduct of redlining.
Yeah.
So when you basically squeeze this area so much and you oppress it so much, it's only going to continue to go down. And so therefore, the developers, the builders, the people who they want to go in and build up the neighborhoods are able to go in there with the lowest amount of investment and build it up and make it better than what they say it was. And, you know, I know you, for example, Shak, you are from Charleston.
Correct.
Which had a huge gentrification happen.
Correct. Same thing that's slowly happening to Norfolk right now.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, so just for the audience to understand what kind of redlining is, right? So, can you take me back to the 50s or
1968?
68. Okay.
As part of the Civil Rights Act is when the fair housing law was created.
So, what were they doing with redlining? Explain how that.
It was called a red line. I'm going to borrow your notepad here, Melissa.
And Josh is going to scribble down.
There we go.
Yeah, just to show it to an example. So you had the downtown area. I'll hold this up here after we draw it. You had your downtown.
Yeah, drew a circle. That's the downtown area.
And then you had the area that was around the downtown area.
You draw a line circumferencing the downtown area. Okay.
And then they said, hey, we're only going to give the minorities this section over here.
This looks like you just cut that by a quarter.
That's not even a quarter.
This is the minority section over here. If you tried to buy a house outside of this area, the banks in this area would deny your loan.
So only the banks within that small quarter section would approve for minorities, and the ones outside of it wouldn't?
The banks were in the downtown areas.
Oh, okay.
And so if you wanted to buy a house and you put an offer in on a house, you could only buy houses that were in this area.
Oh.
You could put an offer in over here if you got a real estate agent to put an offer in and it got accepted. When the time came, the banks would deny the loan.
Correct.
And say, no, that's not inside the red line, and I should have a red pen, but this is your area over here. You have to buy in this area right here. Now, what they did...
So that's like segregation.
That's the whole point of it. That is the point of redlining.
Your only way out was to have some inside scoop.
Yeah, you had to know somebody who knew somebody in order to get outside of that realm, or you had to be cash. You had to be able to say, hey, I'll buy it cash. But here's what they did, because you see how on the map the proportion of land available to minorities was disproportionate to the total population. So then they created special zoning requirements. You all know them right now as UR, which is urban residential. So a plot of land that is in an urban residential area here in our local area, you can have up to 4 units on that same one plot of land. The reason why they had to change this was because of overcrowding, and there would not be enough houses in the shaded area. So they said, well, we'll allow up to 4 houses on each plot of land, so that way that we can quadruple the amount of houses that we could put in order to house the minorities.
So I don't know how it is in other people who are watching the podcast where they're from, but I can tell you in certain parts of Virginia, is that kind of why you go through some of these lower income areas and the yard, they're single family homes detached, but they're like on top of each other.
Correct.
Absolutely.
You need to put on some butter just to walk into your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made the frontage requirements a lot smaller. You know, if you go into certain areas, the frontage is 50 feet. So you have to have 50 feet of frontage. But in other areas, it could be 25 feet of frontage.
So like half that, so you could put 2 houses there.
You could put 2 houses there.
Correct.
But it is how they controlled the population. But again, the problem with it is that it's still affecting communities today, 55 years later. And all of the things that we talked about today, 100% they're still going on. They're just going on at levels that may or may not be seen. You know, one of the things that came out of the last housing market collapse, if you look at the Frank Dodd Act, it said that the majority of people who were loan officers were, one, unlicensed. There was no licensing, no credentials that were needed. It was a friend of a family. I ran the bank, and you were my friend's son. Come on, Robert. Come on. You can work in the bank with me, and you'll be in charge of giving out loans. Now, you could be a criminal. And you could still be in charge of giving out money to other people and controlling who got a loan and who didn't get a loan.
Man, that's horrible, and it's still going on to this day. You can see it, even if it's less than it is. You can see the residuals in the communities. Like I've gone in. I mean, you and I, when I first started in real estate, I started with you, and we started in. I'm Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And we started in Portsmouth together. And that's how I learned real estate, was going through the hoods of Portsmouth.
P-Town.
Yeah.
P-Town, yeah.
I didn't care. You know, I walked in there and, you know.
Yeah. But look, the thing
care.
about it is it made us better real estate agents because of it.
Yeah.
Because we took on the hardest.
People get pre-qualified
the hardest
for loans.
people, the people that nobody else wanted to work with. You know, there's probably somebody out there right now that might be listening to this and be like, hey, I called this real estate agent and they wouldn't give me the time of day.
Correct.
You know, they told me that I wouldn't qualify, but they didn't even really check anything. Like, all of that was going on, and it's still going on today.
Yeah.
People are just being a little bit more discreet about it, but it still happens to this day. But because you and I took on that tough task, it made us better, wiser, more knowledgeable real estate agents, because not only did we learn the real estate side of it, we learned the financial side of it.
Yeah.
We learned, like, okay, what does it take to get somebody qualified? Like, where do they need to be at? What are the requirements? What are the guidelines? What does the policy say? So because we know that, it's hard for someone to challenge us.
Yeah, and you know, I'll tell you, all of us here at the table, and I'm having a frog in my throat today. Oh, goodness gracious. So I'm sure all of y'all here, has any of your clientele ever asked you, like, I just want to live in a good neighborhood. I don't want to live in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
First question.
So how do you handle that?
Well, the problem is they don't understand where we came from. So so you ask me what's a bad neighborhood, I'm like, well, this isn't bad.
And that's true. That varies everywhere.
It's subjective.
With everyone, yeah.
A good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood is subjective based off of a person's past. If you've been and you've lived in some tough spots, something might not be as bad to you. So it's like, nah, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
So it's not even a question that someone should ask someone else because it's so subjective.
Yeah.
Because everybody has different values. Like
100%.
I could tell you before I was a real estate agent, when I bought my house, what I thought was a good neighborhood, because I had small children, was what's really fire schools. I really want good schools. That was really my main thing. And that was considered a good neighborhood to me, as long as the schools were great. But somebody else who don't have kids, like, man, forget schools. I want to be close to the bars or the nightlife or something like that. That might be considered a good neighborhood, something that's jumping, lively. That's a good neighborhood. Or maybe somebody doesn't have kids and they have nothing but dogs. And they're like, well, I need a big old yard for my dogs to run around in. So it's kind of a tough question for a real estate agent to answer anyway, let alone just the fair housing stuff. But just, how do you answer that?
It's hard to get in it and get your hands in it without touching sometimes one of these subjects we've talked about today, either the steering, the redlining, or the what was yours? Blockbusting.
Right.
It's hard to get into it. What I do is I put it back on the client.
Exactly.
And that's the smartest thing to do. I have to remove myself from it because, like Josh said, what's tough for me is not tough for you.
Right.
You probably can survive inside a neighborhood that I think is normal,
Yeah.
But, I put it back on the client. I tell them the references. I tell them goodschools.com. I think
Great schools.
Great schools.
Great schools.org.
Good, great.
But what
sponsor.
What about the websites we could send them to check out the demographics of the neighborhood?
Of the crime and so on
exactly.
and so forth.
So
Yeah.
kind of refer that back to them instead of trying to even rationalize or tell them which ones are good or bad.
And then the old school stuff. I'll tell a client in a heartbeat, hey, if you like this house and you're concerned about such and such, come back to this house in the evening.
Yeah.
And check it out, Just come drive the neighborhood in the evening. You can kind of see so much more because let's be honest. I don't know where Josh is from, but listen, the neighborhood I came from after 9 o'clock.
There was a reason.
That's when the day starts, man.
There was a reason we had to be in before the street lights came on.
That's when the day starts. So let them drive in the evening. If they don't like what they see, then you know what, we move on. It's that easy.
Yeah. I think I get that a lot of clientele, they're mostly concerned with safety and security. So I always ask them a question of what they mean by, usually they mean crime, low crime. And so I will say, okay, well, what type of crime is, suitable for you or acceptable to you, rather, not suitable. That's nobody thinks it's suitable. But what kind of crime is acceptable to you? Because the crime happens in any neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So let me ask, maybe I'll ask some of the audience this. When you think to yourself, what is considered a good neighborhood and bad neighborhood when it comes to security? What about pedophiles? Do you like them in your neighborhood?
That's a good one.
Do you like pedophiles in your neighborhood? Because I'll bet you if you go on Megan's Law website and you look around your neighborhood, man, you're going to hate me after I tell you this, but go ahead and look up the sex offender registry.
It depends on you if you got kids.
Exactly.
Some people don't have kids.
Yeah.
Or they have no plans for kids,
Right.
Yeah, but
maybe they're not about kids. Maybe they're about offending others.
Yeah, but if you think about that, though, most pedophiles probably would live in what neighborhoods?
One that's loaded with kids.
They're good schools.
So think about, you got to ask yourself, you got to be careful what you wish for, because, there are a lot of neighborhoods where, people who are pedophiles and sex offenders and things like that, it would be very difficult for them to live in those neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of them, but...
Do you get nervous as an agent when you got this single guy and he's trying to check school zones? he's trying to move into a kid-populated neighborhood? What do you do, man?
Man. I don't want anything about that. Kids, man.
Going down the wrong rabbit hole.
Oh, man, that's bad. I mean, Josh brought it up. Now I got to thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one type of crime. I mean, but what they might think of, like, well, I don't want a bunch of murders around me. I'm like, well, what kind of murders? Are we talking about gang violence murders? Are we talking about vehicular manslaughter? Somebody actually ran somebody over, I mean, or we're talking about petty crime, like, stealing your Amazon packages. There's people that
Yeah.
follow trucks around and
Or
steal
stealing your
packages.
change
Yeah.
out your car or
Yeah,
something.
well, I don't have the stats on it, but I would assume
And you're a
majority
cop,
of the
yeah.
clients would. Yeah, I'm ex-cop. So majority of the clients are
Bravo in
talking
the
about
building.
violent crimes and heavy theft. Those are the biggest two deterrents that they want to stay the heck away from.
Like burglaries and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You leave, and as soon as you leave, he's coming in the back door.
in the
Come
back.
on, man. I don't want that.
Right.
I think sometimes it's neighborhood aesthetics play a role in it, and I would tell people, like, look, one of the things, if you really care about neighborhood aesthetics, you know, how the neighborhood looks, look at pride of ownership. Okay, are people out there cutting their grass? Are they, you know, trimming their hedges? Are they keeping their houses clean? That's pride of ownership, and that can happen in any neighborhood.
Or do their Christmas lights look like a rock star concert?
Yeah, like something like that. Offhand, that was one of my side hobbies, is trying to
I'm sorry, y'all.
do
You
Christmas
guys
light
didn't get
show.
to see the pre of that, but we got to witness some of Rob's newfound love.
Hobbies.
Yeah, I like complicated hobbies, so I'll share that with you when I got that done. But but on a more serious note, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have been asked by people before that they don't want to live in a community where they're the minority, and they look a little bit like me. I've had that happen quite a few times, and I'm not going to say a lot. I'd say maybe more on one hand. I can count probably on one hand. I don't keep a running demographic list in my car to show people
Right.
where the brightest areas are and the darkest areas are. So that's not something I do, but because realistically, you guys were all in the military,
Right.
you know, and I don't know if anybody's ever served before, but as a veteran who did it for 20 years, I can tell you that you could take everybody from every place around the United States, from different neighborhoods, different income levels, and you put them in one area. When I was on a ship, I was sleeping 2 feet from the next guy, and we were all showering together, buck-ass naked.
You didn't have to go there. You didn't
Oh my
you didn't
God.
have to go there.
Oh
Every
my
color of the rainbow in one shower.
You did
Can
not
you
have to
imagine?
go there.
So if you had any type of
You didn't have to go
that
there.
went away real quick. No, but seriously, you did work together.
Yeah.
You went on missions together. You did deployments together. You embraced the suck together.
Yep.
So for somebody like us, maybe, yeah, as veterans and stuff, it's kind of hard when somebody says you don't want to live near certain people. But why? You know, you don't know, this dude might have helped save my life, or you don't know, this dude might have, you know, helped me out when I was in a jam when I was in the military or something like that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, but it's as difficult as it is for you, it's equally as difficult for us, because there are some people who won't even work with us just because of who we are. They see us, for one thing, they don't care about how knowledgeable we are. They don't care about how we may be the very best person to help them out of their situation. They only see one thing, and the thing that they see, they don't like, they don't want to be a part of it. And so for that reason, it's like the Shark Tank, they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough all the way. I mean, the funny thing is, Rob, I've been in the same scenario reverse.
Yeah.
I've had a client say, "Hey, are any of us living out here?" You know,
Right.
and
I think
like
we all have.
and I can tell as you talked about it, it's hard to talk about because one, it's your client, that's
Yeah.
your livelihood, so you're not going to lose your client.
Right.
You know, so then you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out, how do I engage this,
Mm-hmm.
keep myself safe, but don't piss them off because they'll
Right.
move on. They'll
Yeah.
move on, right or wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. But
Education is
again,
key.
I go back. I pull back, man. I'm telling you. You know, there are graphs out there that'll show you the demographics. If it's that important to you, you find it for yourself. I ain't gonna tell you.
Yeah, there's
You know what I
census
mean?
data out there or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably 2 years old, but, you know, look it up, man.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, like, this is the whitest area possible for you. It usually doesn't come off like that either. It's usually more underhanded. But I know what they're getting at. But I have experienced some difficulties working with Asian clients. It's just hard for me to earn their trust. I don't know what the hell. And I hate to draw it like a commonality on it, but I can't close Indian clients. I tried, and I've worked really hard. And
it's not because of who you are. You know what?
No.
You know what the deal is. I mean, I
It's
know
just
this
culture
from
thing, I
years
guess.
of being in sales. No.
They love to negotiate.
They want to close the deal themselves. They don't really want you. They don't need you.
I got you.
But because they're not licensed, they have to use you.
Yeah.
But they really don't want. They would rather talk to that darn client directly and cut you out right now.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. It's got nothing to do with you.
And it is their culture. Their
Correct.
culture, they love to negotiate. They love to, to barter. And, like, for most people in America, like, we'll argue somebody down to the dirt. We'll both be passed out on the floor, no breath left in our lungs. That's what they
love
do.
it,
They
man.
love to negotiate.
Oh.
They love to barter. Even after you get your client under contract, they will still try to go back and negotiate and get something else.
Correct.
Because it's just how they view winning. They view they view every transaction as a win or a loss. And if they don't feel like they got enough in order for it to be a win, then they'll try to get one more thing out of it, whatever
He's
that
so
one
right.
more thing
He's
is.
so right.
Just to piggyback off of what Josh was saying, being from Trinidad and Tobago, where the population is about 60% Indian, that's how we go to the market.
Yep.
Correct.
It's not like an American store where the price is the price.
There you
The
go.
price is the starting point of the It's like an auction everywhere
Absolutely.
you go. So you're taking somebody out of their country that says, when you go to the market, which is what we call it, right? Not the grocery store, but the market. Okay, 50 cents.
Yeah.
Let's see how I can get this for 15 cents.
So don't feel bad, Rob. It's
And that's
not
also biblical.
you.
It says a man will go and say it wasn't worth it, but then go down the street and rejoice and see how you got it for a bargain. So, I mean, that's older than
Yeah,
this book.
it's probably these are things I experienced before, just conveniently forgetting because we've been overseas to
My friend.
I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to Middle East several times, and I've had to barter and until I got just exhausted from it. I'm just like, come on, just give me a good price. Jeez.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Just for you, my friend,
they're
I'm
not
gonna
like
give
the
you this.
American customer. You earn the American. You get past that first deal, you earn their trust. The next deal's easier. Nah.
You gotta keep working
Next
harder.
deal, same thing all over. Game on, all over again, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely cultural.
Yeah. So good neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods,
Simple.
simple.
It's the neighborhood that you live in and the one that you invest in. That's the best one. That's it.
It's your values. It's what you consider, most like you and what you value. It's a personal value thing. So that's really what it comes down to. But look, guys, we talked about like resources and stuff people can look at. Unfortunately, your agent can't just tell you good news, good neighborhood or bad neighborhood. Even if they look like you, they might have different values than you. They might be veterans. They might be, mixed in their cultures or something like that. So they might have different values. So they might tell you something different and that you wanted to hear. Unfortunately, you can't always rely on what an agent said because, we had I hate to bring this up, but we had an agent that got shot in the head in Portsmouth because, and that's in Virginia. And I don't know what the whole story was, but evidently he had a client that bought sight unseen, and he bought in good old P-Town where we first started real estate, and the guy got shot, and that was it.
Yeah, but that's just one of many stories throughout the country. It's an inherent risk that we, have to go and deal with. Not too long ago, over the summer, there was a young lady who was showing a house in Norfolk, and gunfire erupted, and her and her clients were down on the floor. Like, obviously that's a clear sign to your client. Like,
Is that a good neighborhood or bad neighborhood if that
I
happens?
actually experienced something like that too.
Wow.
I did. We were at the house. We went out the back door, and we had pop, pop, pop. You're like, all right, that's not the one.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, because we go all over, we see everything.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen drug deals happen right in front of me. Like,
Right
all
in
right,
front.
look, hey, you didn't see nothing. Right. You know, Rob, you were showing a client a house one time, and you know, something happened where, you know, there was a guy who came out.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, tell him.
Yeah. Well, no, I was showing this client a house in a neighborhood that looks like they didn't take much flack off people, so to speak. So I showed him a house, and he came out, and this guy was stacked about 5'5", 5'7", and he was young, and he had a young bride. And I was locking up, and they were walking towards their vehicle. And by the way, there was no parking, like a driveway.
Yeah,
It was on the street.
parking.
Yeah, it was street parking, so they actually had to park further away.
You in P-Town?
Not P-Town.
Norfolk.
Like, well, I'm not gonna like. I'm gonna dog it out, but like anyway. So yeah, it was something like that. Anyway, so I'm locking up, and some gentleman on the street comes up and starts talking and hollering at his wife right in front of him. And this dude was I'm 6'2". I'm weighing in about 250 pounds. This dude,
this is going.
This dude was about my size. And he started talking to his girl, and I'm about, 30 feet away. And he started stepping to this guy. He's like, "What did you say to my wife?" And I'm like, I ran over there. Like, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, sir? How you doing? I was just showing a house down here. These guys were just leaving. Appreciate it, everything, man. Hope you're doing well, you know.
Yeah.
Have a good day."
Use the situation.
Yeah. And I told him, and I said to him, I was like, "Hey, look, I thought I lost a client there, so I just figured I'd give him a dad speech because he was a lot younger than me." So I just said, "Look, you know, this is his neighborhood. We're guests, okay? So don't act a fool, and just be lucky he was alone."
Yeah.
You saved them that day, man.
Saved
It could have
life.
went really bad.
Yeah.
That could have gone real bad.
Yeah. So I just was respectful to the gentleman and said, "Hey, you know, everything's cool. We're just leaving, and we were just visiting, and now we're done. Have a nice day."
How fast you get out of there?
Fast.
Me, not quickly. I don't have much fear of things I should be afraid of, but
Good.
so, like, and when we used to work P-Town, you know what? You know what my crazy ass used to do? I used to dress up in khakis and a polo shirt, and I used to wear Oakley sunglasses, and I would have a military style haircut, so I would look like a cop.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he first had a diesel F-150?
F-250.
F-250.
No.
I remember that, the gray one.
That was
Yeah.
black.
That was black.
It was black. Yeah, it
yup.
was black.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I'm gonna switch it up a little bit," and he went with the blacked out, the black on black Jag.
Yeah, I went to
I
jail. And then
remember
the
the
cops
Jag.
started pulling me over
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
I was like, "Geez, what you guys pull me over for?"
Man.
And you were like, "You got the Broham package." Man.
Didn't I tell you? I said, you get the Broham package, man.
That's why I got a white car.
But that's a
Shaq
whole
said it.
nother discussion. We can get the mics going all
Yeah.
night about stuff like that.
Oh man,
But
because you're a cop, you used to pull Broham packages over.
nah, man, I worked in downtown Newport News, man. We don't have time to pull nobody over. Ain't
You
nothing
going for
but
serious
Ain't
crime?
nothing but head busting and trying to stay alive and make it home.
Yeah.
Nah, we didn't pull nobody over. I think I may have written maybe 5 tickets in the time I was there.
Wow.
And they were always because of an accident. That's the only reason you got a ticket. You done hit somebody.
Oh man, but you've been in a lot of different neighborhoods over there and stuff like that.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So you definitely saw the effects of fair housing law practices that were not being followed in some of these neighborhoods.
Correct.
It's still going on today, like Josh said.
Yeah, man. It's just underhanded. They're
Yeah.
just not. They're just not as upfront about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe that's happening.
Oh yeah. They're just not being so flamboyant with it, just doing it right there in front of your face.
Yeah. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to know where a good neighborhood is and a bad neighborhood based on what your wants and needs, unfortunately, you're going to have to do your own little research here. There's different websites out there. You can check out Area Vibes. Area Vibes, this is not sponsored, by the way. I'm just telling you where to go. There's people that write all types of talk about certain neighborhoods, good or bad. So go check out Area Vibes. There's Neighborhood Scout. Go check out Neighborhood Scout. That's another one. Greatschools.org if you were like me and just really like, school quality. There's Nextdoor. That's that app. People talk trash about their neighbors all day long.
All day long.
Yes.
I'm Nextdoor. So if you really want to know what the banter is in that neighborhood and the pulse on everything, check out Nextdoor. There's also, like one of y'all said, local crime data.
Correct.
Yeah. So
I think Crime Spotter.
yeah,
There's
something
one of
like
There's
that.
a couple of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of them.
Some of them, they have some real nice overlays. When you get in there, you just pull up the map and you can see an overlay. You can even drill down, petty larceny. It tells you the type of crimes that were committed.
Oh yeah, it has
So
a little
it's deep.
target sign
Yeah,
in
it
there
gets
for
deep.
murders. I saw that
It gets
one.
really deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's it. That's all I got to offer. On
Well,
that one.
one
Yeah, go ahead.
interjection.
Yeah.
To the agents who are not adhering by this and they're assuming and they start to try and steer their clients or start to try and blockbuster with their clients, listen, be careful and don't assume, because I gained a deal the other day, and I'm not going to talk about who the agent is because they actually told me who it was, so I will definitely not say their name, but, they they started and initiated the talks about where they thought this client should be and telling him about what they felt like the crime was in the house that they were looking at. Turned off. Fired him.
That's crazy,
Yep.
man.
I sold him a house in less than 2 weeks. So thank you, but you better stop,
Right.
because what could happen is some of these guys will report your butt,
Yeah.
and it won't end as easy as just Shaq stealing your deal.
Right.
It's
Well,
going
you
to
didn't
end.
steal it. You still gave it away.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't steal
Just
it.
earned it.
I earned it, but
You
thank
earned
you
it.
anyway.
They
I'm
gave you the
still
alley-oop.
saying thank you. Alley-oop. There we go.
But on a serious note, these practices, it causes devastation to neighborhoods for generations, because what that's doing is because in real estate, if you can look at any chart, it'll tell you like housing in general, if they do just like the national stats, that over time it goes up and down. It ends up gaining equity over time. But if you're in areas where unfair practices are happening, it doesn't allow that community to have a fair shot of progressive equity building over time. That cuts out wealth building for folks, because what is one of the most biggest assets for wealth building of lower and middle class?
Of anybody.
Pretty
Of
much anybody. Yeah.
You look
Home
at
ownership,
every
without a doubt.
billionaire, you ask them how they became a billionaire was through real estate. That's it. So it is the biggest asset wealth building mechanism in this country and across the globe. That's why there's a lot of Chinese investors who buy houses here in America.
Yeah, and I heard the market in China is not doing too well either. That's another topic. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry, that's nerd stuff. You guys want to know about that? Anyway, that's it, man. That's all I got. I think we're going to go ahead and end this podcast. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Thank you for the invite. This was very, very
No, I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it. Matter of fact, we got to get my wife up here. Man. We got to talk some staging stuff next.
Yeah, man.
Got to get her up
some
here.
houses.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll figure out another topic in the future on that. But anyhow,
I got it already.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right.
There's
Fantastic.
I'm wearing it tonight, man. Did y'all catch it?
There's an ongoing debate about whether or not houses that are staged sell faster than houses that are not staged. I think that would be a great topic for the people who do the staging.
Yeah, that and solar panels and everything else we want to talk
Yeah,
about.
we're gonna get to them
God.
soon.
Oh God, we got something brewing heavy for that. Even that, and how to stop getting screwed by contractors. How to negotiate with those fools, so they can stop taking advantage of people. All next episodes. We're
Man,
still
you just
working on
touched
that.
on some deep ones right there.
Yeah. Guys, if you like this podcast, please go ahead and give us a like. Let us know you like it. If you haven't subscribed either, please consider subscribing. Turn on that bell notification. If you feel like dropping a tip, go ahead and hit that super thanks button. It's a little heart icon at the bottom. And if you are on Spotify or Apple Music, this will be like our first episode on there. I'm not sure what you guys are supposed to do. Follow, subscribe. I'm not sure yet. I'll figure that out later. But thanks for watching. See you soon.